Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Saturday the 14th and we're with Militiaman and Crew today, and we're going to have some great information because there's powerful stuff that's been going on. I think if you've watched my last two videos, you probably get the sense that there's things that are in motion, and I think it's really kind of important. The electronic systems that they've been talking about for so long, they date back to even May of 2021. So when people say that there's not too much progress going on, well, some of these things take a long time to put together, and most of them are coming to fruition as we speak. Look, back in, it looks like, let's see, it was back in May 2021 that the taxation system got started with the Asakata system. It's a global system, so we're going to talk about that today. Also remember that they've had for, probably since 2006 or something to that effect, they've had currency windows or the auction, for instance, for the United States dollar. And what we're going to see is that that's going away. We've talked about that. I think we all know that there's a fix for that. So we're going to kind of talk about some of those things that are at play. And one of those things is the ability to get the dollar in legitimate ways. And I think that you're going to see that there's a platform that they're going to have for legitimate dollar sales. But here in this particular article, it came out back on the 11th. It says the beginning of the end for the currency window, and so we saw that a few days ago. I don't think we touched on that, but I think we're just let you know that some of the professionals out there that are authors and experts and stuff. This gentleman by the name of Yasser Al-Matwali. I don't think he's related to Wally, but nonetheless, it's spelt that way. He basically is saying up until today, they've monitored the positive and negative effects of the currency window. And he's published many articles on that matter. But at the time, they were convinced of the necessity of letting the monetary policy take its own path. And they say they want that to happen without parliamentary and governmental interventions through statements from some non-specialists. I thought that's kind of funny because here's an expert saying, look, we're not listening to the parliamentary or the government people in the sense of what when they talk about things, they don't know what they're talking about. Let us do that. And so I thought that was pretty good. It says now that the central bank has been able to prepare the appropriate ground for leaving the currency auction or window. So they're saying that today, now, then, 3 days ago, that they're gearing to leave that currency auction window, and that's the dollar. So we're going to see how that comes. It helps because basically in the past, it was used for a specific purpose for liquidity, and I think at times it's worn out. So the parallel market is basically has been forewarned that it's going to go away. And so with all the threats that you had from some of the political people, all the hoopla that's going back and forth, ultimately the reason why the parallel market is going up with in the dollar value is because of its scarcity. And so at the last, before it goes completely bye-bye, it's obvious that those that are really desperate to use the dollar will try to bid it up, and that's probably going to go away. So ultimately, with this new system that's coming to take place, they're saying that this electronic, after they've completed the electronic platform in its correct form, it says its time has come to dispense with the window and transfer the process of financing foreign trade through banks through correspondence abroad. That's when they talk about the correspondence banks. We talked about direct banking, the remittances and documentary credits. It's gonna go away. It says to the lifting of the guardianship or lifting of the cover from the private banks basically is related to their performance, which is, it looks like it's going to be very, very good. It says we are required to track the advantages of these measures, which is scheduled to be implemented early next year. But ultimately, I think what you're going to see is that they're going to start doing things a lot quicker than that. It says the first advantage is that the measures restores the bank's role and responsibilities in providing banking services, which is basically the goal of the establishments of any bank, right? It says, secondly, the measure will limit the monopoly of government banks and their acquisition of trade financing. So it's going to spread around the ability to be able to do things. It's not going to be just the federal or the government banks doing things. It's taking it out of their hands. It's going to be going to the private sector and the private banks. It says the measure will contribute to assisting absent government banks in foreign trade financing operations and generating competitive banking markets. Okay, it will also help in concentrating capital in the hands of private banks, enabling them to raise their capital from 1 billion to 400 billion, and enhancing their credit capabilities to contribute to the process of economic development. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not an investor in Iraqi Stock Exchange, and I'm not promoting the Iraqi Stock Exchange, but I'll have to say is that anybody that reads this, 1 billion to 400 billion, and what are they talking about raising capital, and for what? Banks. So you have to think, light bulb, take a look at that, think about it. It goes on to say that these banks are required to improve their performance by adhering to the conditions and controls of a central bank that are consistent with the requirements of international standards required to practice banking and activities, to be able to meet the requirements for raising their capital. So they have these banks. If you're not part of the plan, those 14 banks that were sanctioned, or a total of 18 banks, if they want to play with the big boys, again, they're going to have to comply with international standards and requirements, and that's basically what they should do. It goes on to say what's important is to inform the public of mechanisms for dealing with this aspect and dealing with the effects before they occur. So in other words, they're trying to say here is that, let me back up. It's basically as goes, what is the impact of closing the currency window on providing the liquidity required to cover the operational budget requirements, was the question. And he states, we understand the measures taken in light of that question. It says, what is important is to inform the public of these mechanisms for dealing with the aspect and dealing with the effects before they occur. So they want to knuckle it down. Hey, you guys, we're going to deal with this before they occur. And then what it says here, the way the translation is, it says, thus spreading the culture of how to deal with decisions to deal with crisis in a shock manner until prices stabilize. Well, in this particular case, it isn't going to be a negative shock. It's going to be more like a positive shock. You still have to deal with the positive or the negative, regardless. If it's a shock, it's a shock. In this case, pricing probably will go down because the value of the currency at some point in time when they do direct banking to go international, it's not going to be at a rate like the 1310. It's going to be something that's fair. Real effective exchange rate, something similar to that. That's my view. Okay, we'll see if I'm right. We'll see if it turns out. But hey, this is a good information. It's phenomenal. Central banks involved. The appropriate ground has been set for this auction window to leave. Therefore, those that were making a cash cow off that auction, just like that Jordanian bank, the NBI, they're probably going, uh-oh, we got to figure out another way to do this. Because what do they have? They have a huge amount of correspondent banks that are going to be involved, and they're going to need to be making some money. And if they're going to have the potential to go from 1 billion to 400 billion, I think bankers know how to play that game. So let's see how that goes. The next thing is a couple 2-3 days ago, we see that back in the news again is the oil and gas law. It was on Thursday. It says work is continuing by the government and political parties to resolve the oil and gas law, overcome obstacles, and give priority to the public interest to move towards legislating the law within Parliament. Well, we all know that this has been going on for a long period of time, but yet again, why haven't they done it? Probably because they're waiting for the exchange rate. Now remember that Kurdistan pipeline going through Cyan, hasn't been started yet, and they too are probably waiting for the same thing, just as the WTO is probably waiting for the same thing. But the cool thing is, in this particular case, is that there is ongoing work between the various political parties to resolve the oil and gas law, finalize it, and hand it over to the House of Representatives in order to include it on the agenda of one of the sessions for the purpose of discussion, reading, and voting. Okay, has it happened before? Of course it has. But we're going to do it again. They're talking about now. This is at the timing of this. Keep in mind, it's timing, right? The Al Sadiq bloc and other representatives have agreed on the importance of passing this law because it guarantees the fair distribution of wealth to all Iraqis and the protection of this wealth from any influences. So basically, what they're saying here at this particular time frame, all of these things coming together, is to be fair with the distribution of wealth to all of Iraqis. That's everybody. That's everybody in Parliament. That's everybody. So I think there isn't going to be anybody that would probably miss that vote. So we'll see. It says the law is one of the most very important laws for the Iraqi people, and the public interest requires that it be passed within Parliament through consensus among the representatives. So it's a necessary thing that needs to be done. And so why haven't they done it? Well, they have to value that. That's what we're waiting for, to see if they have a new valuation for that based off the new international exchange rate. That's what we're hoping for. The next thing is that Iraq and Russia, they have an agreement to deal in dinars and ruples. It's a big thing. We've seen numerous articles about it. But what is it today? No, this was on the 12th. It says that the Iraqi-Russian agreement and transactions between the two countries in local currencies of the dinar and the ruble is to open new doors with other countries for dealing in local currencies, which will reduce the demand for the dollar, describing the agreement as a master stroke. Well, we all know that other countries, Iraq has obviously openly stated that they would like to, get within the BRICS at some point in time. I'm assuming at this stage that this article is definitely referring to that. I have some data that talks specifically about that, where Al Sudani has openly talked about it. I think it was during the UN Assembly meetings, or they're just after. But it says, raising the issue of dealings between Iraq and the Russian Federation at the highest level of two figures played a role in agreeing with the Russian side to conduct transactions between the two countries in the local currencies of the ruble and the dinar, and especially because why? Russia's effectively built or invested about $19 billion, US dollars, I believe, which is a very large number, into the country. It says, in light of that agreement, Iraq will now open new horizons with important countries and deal with the local currency. Again, I believe that's talking about the BRICS in the future. To do so, they're going to obviously need to have a valuable currency, because a lot of currencies that are in the BRICS nations aren't doing very well. And to add a country that's at 1310 into the mix isn't doing them much favor. So obviously, with Russia knowing, and some of those other major countries know, that Iraq has significant value based off their assets, and that they're probably going to go into the international global financial system. And if you guys remember some of my videos, it's specifically on record that Iraq is going to fix the global financial system, or bring confidence to major banks like JP Morgan, for instance. You guys can go back through my videos and you'll see that we did talk about all that, okay? It says that the open new horizons, local currency, demand for the dollar will decrease, and the value of the Iraqi dinar will rise against the dollar. And why? Basically, they have imports, exports that'll be used, and it's going to benefit all the different countries. So that's fascinating and good information to think about. Let's see. Al Rafadain announces the imminent launch of electronic reservations to sell dollars for travelers. So basically, this article here is about legitimate sales of the dollar. So it's an electronic platform. So instead of having the auctions, they're going to have a platform effectively through the RAFIDane. So if you want to travel, go abroad to use the dollar for medical purposes, for studying, you'll be able to get that taken care of. It says the bank's action is in compliance with government directives and the instructions of the central bank in facilitating procedures for obtaining the dollar for travelers easily and smoothly. So there you go. And basically in the coming days of this month of October, it will begin approving electronic reservations by filling out the reservation form for the electronic registration, and it'll be, linked and published on the bank's website. And it's all going to be in accordance with the central bank, which is going to, international compliance. That's what the central bank's going to do. So there you have it. So the parallel market has got a problem when it comes to the dollar. You're going to be able to get it. You're going to have to get it through legitimate purposes. And sounds like that parallel market's coming to an end quickly. Here we have that the Ministry of Construction, Housing, Municipalities, and Public Works announced that Iraq's housing fund will begin electronic application for loans tomorrow on Sunday. Okay, so if you're going to go out and get new loans and you're going to do contracts for new loans and you're going to do that starting tomorrow, well, there's some implications, things that need to be thought about. Well, what kind of interest rates are you going to have? What currencies are you going to be using, or what currency are you going to use, or what value of the currency are you going to use? Are you going to have these loans at 1310, or are you going to have these loans at some other number? That's to be determined. But interestingly enough, the dates are the 10/15 through looks like 10/18, so for about 3 days, and they separate the stuff out for submission to the governance throughout the country at different staggered time frames. It's a good article. I think you guys should read it. All the news is basically this is Iraq's news, right? These dates, whatever, right? So all we can do is tell you and show you the news, and that's what we do here with Militiaman and Crew at Patreon, and especially in Discord. We had a huge following last night. I came into the room and broke down articles, and I think everybody was completely stoked, because if you break it down, analyze it, and absorb it, and someone communicates, kind of like teaching, right? You can understand that the reasons why we do what we do and why we keep all this data at Patreon is so we can go back and research and find the reasonings for our support. There's so many times where if we go back 3 months, 6 months, even 8 months, 9 months, you can find stuff in our room that help you get a grasp on, wow, so this has happened, this has gone on, this is going on, this is coming together. Whoa, they're syncing these things. All these electronic platforms. I haven't even got to the best yet, but it's coming, okay? But the cool thing is the digital transformation is underway, and it's not going to go away. It's actually going to put Iraq in a situation to be one of the most advanced countries in the world when it comes to digital transformation. And so it's powerful. So here is an article called Communications, the Digital Transformation Project Will Reduce Corruption and Red Tape in State Institutions. So there's so many different facets to e-governance. It takes into account all the different institutions of the country. So it says here, the Ministry of Communication confirmed on Saturday, that is today of course, that its procedures are ongoing regarding the digital transformation and automation project and everything related to electronic governance. Okay, I won't finish the whole article, but the bottom line is that the Ministry of Communications is working, it says, quote, the digital transformation and automation will reduce corruption operations in state departments and eliminate the existing red tape, as well as administrative problems related to contact between citizens and state institutions. So this coordination with other ministries to implement this strategy is just going to be a really good thing. The Council of Ministers will discuss the project more than once and stress that its progress is underway and they're doing things. So that's a big part of this whole thing. On a sidebar, okay, so we do know that Al Sudani went to Russia for a couple of days, and he was talking about the development road project. And they were talking about earlier on, I talked about the 19 billion that Russia's motivated to do. Well, interestingly enough, we talked about some dates from the 15th to the 18th. We talked about the traditional money transfers, had to deal with, we talked about the currency window going away. We talked about the money transfers in a couple of videos, that the traditional money transfers have some specific time frames. One of those time frames is for payment wise for the traditional remittance, would maybe the last one could be on the 16th, paid. And then you're seeing dates of the 17th, 15, 16, 17, 18 for the housing loans, electronic. Okay, those things are all can be associated for specific time frames. You can't just have 30 million people going, or 20 million or 10 million people going out and trying to get houses all at the same day, because when you get the hydrocarbon law, because we talked about that oil and gas and how important it was, need an exchange rate. If that happens, then all these people can base their loans, mortgages on their pay, because they're going to be getting new money every month, collectively, electronically. So I'm sure that people selling cars are going to want to tap into you because they know that you got the money. You're going to get extra revenue. So they'll be able to find that. The information for the new systems, the QFS, the ISO 20022 is available soon. It's going to be fast, furious information, very detailed, and they'll be able to monitor and know that if you buy a vehicle, you can pay for it. Buy a house, you can afford it, you can pay for it. So anyway, back to this, it says Vladimir Putin will arrive in China next week. What are they talking about? They're talking about the Silk Road Initiative, 17th and the 18th. Find that very interesting. And so al-Sudani went and talked about the development road. Well, the development road interconnects with the Silk Road. And where is it going? It's going from east to west, or west to east, but vice versa. It doesn't matter which direction it's going. But the bottom line is that when they hook this thing up, they're going to need all the infrastructure, and that's what this is all about. The Silk Road will mark the 10th anniversary of its launch of infrastructure. So we've known about the Silk Road project for at least 10 years. And the Belt Road aims to improve trade between Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond by building ports, railways, airports, and industrial zones. Well, exactly what the Development Road Project, Sudani was in Russia talking about, whereas al-Sudani was in Europe talking about. Al-Sudani was in the United States of America at the UN Assembly talking about. So obviously you can see that, wow, this is different than before. This isn't 20 years ago. This isn't the blah, blah, blah. Every video is the same. A little bit of fun there, you guys. But the bottom line is, what's it going to take? Here's the main point on this whole collective that I've done today, is that the Customs Automation Project is an important starting point for implementing financial and banking reforms. So this is today. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani confirmed today, Saturday, that the Customs Automation Project is an important basis and starting point for the implementation of financial and banking reforms. So basically, if you guys can remember back, I think it's May 27th, 2021, the Asakata automated taxation system got started. That was 2.5, 3 years ago. No, not quite, about 2.5 years ago. And what are they doing? Today they're talking about the Asakata system, and basically through a comprehensive application of information technology, which contributes to the unification of customs procedures, the issuance of electronic declarations, and data exchange. This is going to be just so much similar to, or interconnected to, the banking platforms. It's going to be connected to the e-government platforms because they're all going to have a need to know of all the trade that comes through the ports, all the bills of ladings, all of that, declarations, everything, how much taxes, what specific goods. I'm assuming that the World Trade Organization is going to need this information. Al-Sudani is saying it's one of the most important bases. It's the starting point of all this. Well, the starting point of all this didn't get started today. It got started, according to, I have the article here, it's back on May 27th. It says the Asakata system is expected to be a game changer in customs processing in Iraq and improve the ease of doing business in the country. It's a truck on routes capability, There's lots of different things. It's about 2 pages long. But the bottom line is that they're going to have the implementation of technical workshops to introduce this important project, which will support the government's efforts in developing an economic structures according to the foundations of integrity and transparency. I think that we all know that they talked about that in the previous article back in May of 2021. They go on to say that the Customs Automation Project is one of the most important axes of economic reform that's been adopted by the government within the priorities of the government's program. It is an important basis and starting point for the implementation of financial and banking reforms in accordance with the government's vision and approach in applying real trade and combating corruption. So they just basically are hammering it home that they have all these systems, these electronic systems that I talked about, they have them all ready to go. And so with these specific things happening, with them trying to do specific things within these realms of these specific times, these dates that they give, have to keep you on your toes, watching to see what they do, because it's phenomenal. They haven't opened the budget, 2023, 24, 25 budget, and started spending yet. Specifically, we have proof of that because they're calling in Tafe Sammy, the finance ministry, and wanting to ask more questions. We got a strong feeling that we know that since this last day of these traditional transfers or remittances, we're going to have to look at that coming up here in a couple days. So a lot of information in a few articles today. I hope you enjoyed it, but thank you very much for being here. For all the new folks, if you guys like our channel and you like to subscribe, hit that like button, subscribe, and for all those, realize that we don't do advertisement during my message at all. So we do have the Venmo, PayPal, Zelle type ways of helping us create this environment, keep the content flowing for those donations. I appreciate that. So you have a great afternoon. Enjoy your weekend. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.